And we're back. Okay, and so then it was the guy's turn, Brian.
He was my favorite.
Funny.
Funny. First of all, I just would like to say, I would just like to point out, he had on an Atlanta shirt.
He did, but it was Atlanta Cardinals. What is
the Atlanta
some sort
Cardinals.
Of other
it was
Atlanta
a baseball
thing?
Team. He had a Southern accent that he would pull out at random times.
He would pull it out.
It was weird, but he had a fully Irish accent.
No,
so
yeah,
he must have spent some time in the South, I feel like.
Maybe.
Because he had a good Southern accent. Anyways, this is not important. So they had this tension of the scene change, and then
the guy started his story, and it was all about. Well, he went through his day like through the town.
It was like kind of all in his imagination, though. He would make stuff up, like he was talking. He had this song, and like he was basically like dancing through life. So it was more funny. Like it was like his day, but through this like really like through imagination.
How he sees it, through
how he wanted it to be.
How he views his life.
Yeah. But it wasn't just like perspective driven. It was like he was imagining things, like imagining that his muscles were stronger than everyone else.
It's like people who live in their own fantasy world.
Yeah. So the first girl, we're just gonna keep this straight for you. First girl, past tense. Brian, imaginary.
Yeah. And he did this whole bit about him, because they started getting into like they were going to the theater to like do the show or whatever.
Yeah. And
he had this whole bit about how he was the only one that could lift these boxes or whatever. Like he was the strong one.
And they were all like trying to move the boxes, and like
him.
They were so, especially what was his name? The other guy, not Brian.
Rob.
He was red in the face from fake lifting those boxes.
To lift the boxes. But yeah, his bit was really funny, and then it moved to the other girl.
Then it moved to the Tanya girl, who was like, her thing was that it was all happening at the time,
at this moment.
So it was kind of like she was
still working everything out because it was like going on as it was happening. So she would be like,
she would describe things like, we're sitting down. He's outside, I'm inside. Like, she was describing everything in present tense.
And she was like, and I was listening. No, I wasn't. I'm not listening to him. I think he's probably doing one of his stupid jokes again.
Yeah.
And like, that kind of thing.
And she couldn't remember things.
Yeah.
And so, like, they would have a moment where there would just be a little spotlight on her, but not a bright spotlight, like a fuzzy, a fuzzy spotlight. And she would be like, and then we did this, and then wait, and then like, da-da-da-da-da. And like, it was all happening in present tense. It was like a script.
Yeah.
And then they got into this part where the other characters started contributing to the script.
Yeah, and so then like everyone kept fighting for like who was writing the script or whatever, and so like he was like, and then you get up and say this to me. Oh well, let's talk about the when they redid the stuff like.
Oh
3
yeah,
times.
There was like this moment where she offended Brian, and like, as a result of her offending him, like, it was like, you know how when you get embarrassed, you relive it over and over again? So they repeated it, like, 3 times. It was hilarious.
It was so funny. And then from that, it spurred into this, like, controlling the narration, and like the action of
6
the play.
Characters in the church were not there kind of thing.
Yeah. And it was so great.
It was so great. And, like, everything was just so on point choreographed. Like,
I don't know
how they did it in 3 weeks.
And it was in previews.
And they did it in 3 weeks. It was amazing.
Amazing. And then, finally, the Hig.
So then they get into this moment of, like, they're scripting everything out, and he's like, so then Brian says that these girls need to be called Higs. They're not even humans. And, like, the girls just stop it. And Brian hasn't been doing anything this whole time. So, because no one has given him, or Rob hasn't been doing anything this whole time because no one's given him any dialogue. So he wasn't
he's just
able
standing
to.
there, yeah. It's like, what's that number?
So do you want to tell the Higs?
Oh, well, he was just, and they're like, Higs? What are you talking about? What's a Hig? What's a Hig? Like, a human pig. I guess you had to be there.
No, that is hilarious.
It's so funny.
It's a Hig, but it's a human.
And they were like, he was saying that Rob had told him that or something like that.
Yeah,
and
like Rob said that's what they should be called. And they were like, Rob would not say that.
Rob wouldn't say that. That's something
He's a gentleman.
Would say. He wouldn't say that. You would say that. Like, blah, blah, blah.
So then they start talking about Rob.
Fighting, yeah.
And then Brian's like, Rob has like 364 friends on Facebook, and Tanya's like, one of the girls is like, yeah, I have like 155 in common. Yeah. And Rob's like, I have 364 in common. We basically know the same people. And so then they start talking in Facebook language.
And so, like, they kept, like, Tanya likes this. Like, that she'll just, like, stop and then it's like, well, we have, like, we went to a whole event where we just took pictures with each other. And,
and then they're like, his relationship status is complicated. Like, it was so... They but it wasn't like... were speaking in Facebook language.
Like, I know, like, the whole Facebook joke has been done before, but, like...
They were just speaking normally.
It was speaking normally. It wasn't
as
like...
If you speak, like, oh, my status update is that I'm lonely. Like, you know, like, it was so funny.
It was so funny. Oh, yeah, Tanya likes this.
Yeah. It was so... Funny. It was fresh.
It was fresh. And then after that, Rob. Well, how does it transition to Rob?
They were all talking about what a good guy he was, and they just kept talking about what a good guy he was, and then it like the lights started coming out, and then he like stood up.
He was just standing there for forever.
They were all just standing there, and all of a sudden.
The boxes start moving. They just, like, there are these 3 columns
of boxes, and they're moving.
And they just start moving towards each other, and then back, and, like, to the side. And then it's so great, because there are 3 columns, and so Rob's standing still, like, in his spot. And then the other people move to, like, behind the boxes, and the boxes are moving, and they start, like, walking, like, with the boxes.
So you don't see them because they're behind the boxes, so you're only looking at Rob. All of a sudden, Rob is the only person there. And then he starts talking about everything in future tense. Mm-hmm. And he's like, so even if it's already happened, he's talking about it like it's still going to happen.
Yeah, he's like, I will open the door. I will get there first. I will open the door for them. I will go into the rehearsal space.
They will go behind this box. Like, he was talking about stuff that had already happened, too.
Yeah, but like it was going to happen, but it already happened.
And he was also continuing the story that Tanya and Brian and the first girl had already told.
From his perspective.
But he was doing it in the future tense.
And then, did he explain it? Mm-hmm. And then he was just like, okay, now I will attempt to explain Rob will attempt to explain to you what this all means, what, like, everything is just meant, or whatever, what this means. And so he explains that, this is about the different views and how people see things differently, and,
that everyone can be in the same place and all be
having different moments.
Yeah. And he was like, "This is the moment when you realize that we're all da-da-da-da-da."
Mm-hmm. And then they start, and then the girl goes back to explaining what she did in the bathroom, and he's like, "No, you didn't used to do it. You will do this." And then she's like, "No, but I used to. I already did it. I used to do it." And he's like, no, you will do it. And she's like, no, I used to. And then, like, Tanya comes out, and he was like, just like Tanya will forget to move the box. And she's like, no, I am forgetting.
That was so funny.
And she was like, but you already forgot. He's like, I am forgetting, but I used to do it. You will do it. And they're, like, fighting, and, like, those 3.
They're fighting about which tense she's talking.
And then Brian comes out, and he's like, wait. Maybe it's all of this. That sounds cheesy, like, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it kind of was, but then you were like, but wait.
But
they like laid everything out for you mentally so that you didn't feel stupid.
Yeah, it was like, it was not the theater that makes you feel stupid. It was the theater
that makes you feel smart.
That makes you feel smart and blows your mind, but isn't cool, like patronizing. And you feel cool with all the hipsters, and then they end with the same choreographed moving of the boxes. Like, the same exact stuff.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
It took us 20 minutes to
tell you about it. And it was a 60-minute play.
I gotta go memorize my poem.
You gotta eat your vegetables.